Yo, what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads, and especially all you gardeners out there? This is Mr. Weedman and Big Earl with the Grow Hour. Big Earl, my brother, how the hell are you?
What's going on? I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. You want to know why?
Why?
Because we're about to record with Lauren Houston of J.R. Peters and the mother company of Jax. Lauren, say hello to the world out there.
Hello, world.
I love it. I love it. Well, Big Earl and I are super stoked. I'm happy to have somebody that's going to teach us about nutrients and more for our fellow growers out there in the world. But before we get started, Earl and I are going to smoke. I'm smoking OG Kush, which is grown by my homie over here, Big Earl. And Earl, what are you smoking on?
Chem cheese haze. I had to go back into the repertoire to grab it.
Oh, look at that. Oldie but a goodie. An oldie but a goodie. And Lauren's not going to smoke on the show with us this round, but that's okay. Lauren, while we're smoking, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Lauren Houston. I am the product and solutions specialist at Jax Fertilizers right now. So I deal a lot with cannabis growers every single day, helping them diagnose their nutritional issues and get them hooked up with some fertilizer.
Love it. Love it. So give us a little bit about your background and your history. How'd you get here?
Yeah, so before I worked at Jax, I did my master's degree in horticulture at the University of Arkansas. And when I was there, my thesis research really focused on nutrient management in recirculating hydroponic systems. More specifically, my specific thesis was on developing species specific replenishment solutions. So, what we would do is we would really dive into, can you tailor the nutrient solution that you're putting back into your hydroponic system to the species that you're growing so that it's a little bit more specific and meeting those particular nutrient needs of those plants, so that you're not wasting any fertilizer and you're really targeting what those plants are wanting to make it as efficient as possible.
Love it. And I'm reading here. I'm reading here from Earl that you got 2 horticulture degrees, a thesis, research paper. You could tell us what that's on. Recirculating hydroponic systems. That's huge. How long did it take you to get there?
So 4 years in bachelor's. I did my bachelor's at Mississippi State University. That's in horticulture, and then another 2.5 years getting my master's at the University of Arkansas. And that, like I said, is where I did all the research on recirculating hydroponic systems, nutrient management, everything like that.
That's great. That's great.
Right.
I know Earl has mentioned Jax a lot on the show. So outside of Jax nutrients, we'll be talking a little bit more in depth soon. But what else is J.R. Peters?
Yeah, so J.R. Peters has a lot to offer, really. So obviously, we have our Jax Nutrients fertilizer line. That's big, especially with cannabis, CEA crops, things like that. But we also have 2 other fertilizer product lines. We have Jax Professional, which is geared more towards ornamental horticulture, nursery production. Anything that you're going to find in a garden center, somebody has to grow that. And if they're doing it right, they're growing it with Jax. And then we also have our Jax Classic product line, which is our retail line for home gardeners. So pretty much, you have a garden at home, you're growing flowers, vegetables, anything like that. We have a product that's going to work for that. Really, what we're most proud of is the Jax Lab. So we do a lot of laboratory testing on site, in house. We do water, media, and tissue testing. So if you need help diagnosing any sort of nutritional issue, we have the resources to be able to test that for you and tell you what's going on based on your results. We're not just a bag of fertilizer, we're also going to provide you the tools that you need to diagnose the issues and then the fertilizer to correct those issues.
Amazing. There's probably a lot of people out there that need that.
You guys do soil analysis then? Like if somebody has like a garden bed outside that they're sending off for, you guys would do that and then make your suggestions based off that?
Yeah, so there is a little bit of difference between soil and media testing. But in general, what we're testing for is going to be the nutrients that are readily plant available. Whenever you send off a soil sample to like your local extension, they're going to be testing the nutrients that could be available over time. So they're testing organic matter as well, whereas we're testing what's immediately available right now. But I mean, we still could test soil, just test it like a media. So whether you have soil, soilless media, substrates, anything, we can test any of that and tell you what the plant is going to be able to use and take up from that right now.
Nice, that's cool. I did not know that. That's,
Now you know, Earl, and the world knows. So hook
yeah.
up with Lauren on that when you need some help. That's awesome. Earl, man, I've been waiting for these questions all week, baby. Let's go. I want to learn, learn, learn. Let's do it.
Yeah, Jax. We talk about Jax a lot. I've used Jax for a long time. I worked in a grow shop garden center for a long time and suggested Jax to a ton of people. And so maybe I thought maybe we could go over a couple of the things I used and maybe a few things that I didn't use. Starting with the 321.
Mhm.
Are there other cannabis specific lines, or is the 321 like the base Jax cannabis line?
Yeah, so the 321 is going to be our base, what we're going to recommend if we don't know anything about your water quality. But we do have a couple one bag blends. So, with the 321, there's a part A, a part B, and then we also incorporate Epsom salts. But we do have two one bag blends that you can choose from depending on your water quality. So, if you have a really hard water source with a lot of calcium, we would recommend our 15520, which is our tap water formula. If you have a really pure water source with less than about 40 parts per million calcium, so if you're using RO water, DI water, rainwater, we have a 12-4-16 RO blend. And that's what we're going to recommend for those pure water sources. So that's what you would use in place of the A and the B together.
Oh,
Now, I will say those one bag blends are really designed for people that are trying to cut down on the total number of formulas they're using, trying to make it as simple as possible. But the 321 is still going to be the industry standard because of its flexibility. So you can really tailor those mixing rates to your particular needs. But if you are trying to keep it as simple as possible, you don't want to be buying and mixing a whole bunch of different fertilizers. We do have those one bag blends to choose from.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the 321, I mean, there's a lot of things I like about it, but being able to calcium nitrate, being able to take some calcium or really more nitrogen out at certain times, which you guys I know made a calcium free one that we can talk about in a little bit. Or a
Mhm.
nitrogen free one, right? Nitrogen free.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
With the A and the B, one thing that I noticed was that I was always told the CalMag, which I thought was because of calcium, but maybe it's because of the magnesium, was supposed to go in first. And with Jax, the B is the cal nitrate. Is there
hmm
something there that like does it matter at all? Or like was I not, under the right assumption there with possible fallout early or anything like that?
Yeah. So, in general, one of the questions that I get most every day is, do I need to be adding CalMag? When do I add the CalMag? When do I mix it in? And in general, if you're using the 321, you do not need extra CalMag because all of the calcium is being supplied by your Part B, and all of the magnesium is being supplied by the Part A and the Epsom salts. So if you're using 321, there is a correct mixing order. It's technically mixing Part A first, then Epsom salts, then Part B.
Okay.
However, I will add the caveat that because our formulas are completely water soluble, as long as you're waiting for one part to completely dissolve before you add the next part, if you mess it up a little bit and do part B first or, Epsom salts at the end or whatever it is, as long as you're waiting long enough in between, it doesn't matter what order you mix them in because you're not going to have any fallout.
Can heat mess with those at all? One of the things that I do, is to get it very soluble in like a 2,000 milliliter jug. I use hot water and I get it soluble, then I pour it into my
Mhm.
reservoirs. But I always wondered if that heat could do anything, or like I haven't seen fallout or anything, but like, what you don't know, you
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah, it really depends on the specific raw materials being used in each formula. For the most part, we do recommend room temperature to slightly warmer water will help it to dissolve faster. But we actually did some interesting kind of looking into the raw materials and how they react to heat. If you use like really hot water or boiling water, which a lot of people try to do, usually it won't cause problems, but occasionally people have mixed the part B calcium nitrate with like boiling water. And just part of the nature of those raw materials is it causes the calcium to become superheated. So it will look like it initially dissolves, but actually will fall out of solution over time. And that has nothing to do with it binding with anything else or like actually, you know, precipitating with another material. It's just that it becomes super saturated from being superheated. and will eventually fall out over time.
Mm.
So, whenever people are
Mm.
asking what's the appropriate temperature to mix my solutions at, I always say room temperature to slightly warm water. Like it should be comfortable enough for you to put your hand in. If it's too hot for you to put your hand in, then it's probably too hot for the materials and you risk it becoming super saturated.
Oh, that's nice to know.
Look at Wes. Wes learning,
Yeah.
going to school
I've
today.
probably been mixing it too hot because I'm putting I'm running like 180, 120, 60, and I'm putting that all in 2,000 milliliters, and it dissolves pretty well, but the water's real warm.
Oh yeah, it'll dissolve real fast, but you gotta pay attention to the
Yeah.
afterwards once it cools off, it all back out.
Yeah, that's
But
good
yeah,
to know.
it's nobody warned me that I would be learning so much about chemistry whenever I took this job. Chemistry was never my strong suit, and now I know way more than I ever thought I would know.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a real thing because fallout is like just I mean, it's you just redo everything. You just there's no, like, saving it, you know? It's not like you just redo everything. But one product I really love from Jax is their finish. And at first, the blue color threw me off a little bit, but I like it now. That finish does such a nice job for me, and being able to control the 3-2-1 and dropping down the calcium nitrate a little bit before like a week or 2 before I run my finish, has been able to really, like, finish my plants and mature my plants better than anything else I've tried. Is that how I mean, I know they have, like, recommendations on there, but is there anything, like, special there other than the nutrient lineup that's just perfect for them?
In regards to the finish,
Yeah, with the finish.
well, so the finish was specifically designed to, like it says, to finish your plants.
Yeah.
So while we do recommend a lower nitrogen feeding rate, it also has that higher potassium, which is supposed to really help with, hardening off those buds, helping with bud density, things like that. But we also made sure to incorporate all the rest of the micronutrients that you see throughout the rest of the 3-2-1. So you're not compromising overall plant health or integrity while you're slightly adjusting the macronutrients to really finish with high quality.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty I like it a lot. If you guys haven't tried Finish, you should. Well, it's like I think I run it full strength the second to last week, half strength last week before flush, and then I do, like, a flush for a while, but, like, it's super nice too, only having to add 1 bag, just 1
Mhm.
instead of, like, the I mean, not like 3 is, like, a big deal, you know? But w
Yeah,
so part A, nitrogen, no nitrogen, or part B, it's the part B, no nitrogen, right? The calcium that's, you guys have
it's
that
part
now?
A.
Part A, okay, part A, no nitrogen.
So
Yes.
yeah, so the 0-12-26 is our zero nitrogen part A. So it was designed for people that are already using the 3-2-1 formula, so that they can seamlessly move from using the A, B, and Epsom salts to using the zero nitrogen A, B, and Epsom salts. So the great thing about the zero nitrogen part A is that everything else about that formula is completely the same. It just has no nitrogen. So even the mixing rates that you're used to measuring out or weighing out and mixing are going to be identical to what you're using with the 5-12-26. So you don't even have to remember new numbers or anything like that. Just by
Nice.
switching from the 5-12-26 to the 0-12-26, you're cutting down significantly on the nitrogen that's being supplied as you move into finish to really help, the plants kind of start that end of life senescence.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a nice little kicker there. I had a incident at a grow shop where they gave me that. That's how I found out about it. They gave me that accidentally. And so I was noticing a little bit of nitrogen deficiency because I was just like running it like I normally would. And it was like early flower or something. I was like, man, what is going on here? And I go back to the bag. I was like,
Oh, no.
oh, but it's so nice because, well, especially before that finish came out for me, it's like just taking that. You guys are very aware of like what the plant needs and wants, and it like is taking that nitrogen out
Like,
really helps towards the end.
That was a great. You should go work for them,
Dude, I
Earl.
like them. I
yeah.
appreciate them, and not only all of that, because like I was using Jack before, like
Earl,
all the finish and all that, but it was the price at the beginning. It's like it's
the
finish
finish
looks like Kool Aid.
by
Looks
Big
Kool Aid
Earl.
for the
All
plant.
right.
The finisher, baby.
Yeah,
The
it's
finisher,
good.
baby.
Have you used that yet, Weedman? Have I brought I should bring you
No,
some. I should bring you some. It's a fun nutrient.
I'm looking forward. Like I said, Earl. Like I
Finish.
said. You should be on the
Yeah.
fucking magazine, The
The
Finisher.
finisher. It it's true. It answered all my dreams for the end there, 'cause in the back in the day, I'd cut out B and add a CalMag, which still has nitrogen usually, but that's the only way, like, to get nitrogen, like, to drop my nitrogen numbers a little bit and keep my calcium in there. So the finish and then the no calcium or no nitrogen were both, like, made a lot of sense, and, like, worked.
So if you were a wrestler, Earl, your name is gonna be Jack.
Yeah.
Jack's Nutrients is gonna be on your shorts,
Jack's
right?
finisher.
And your finishing move is gonna be Jack the Finisher, baby. That's it right
Finisher.
there. That's your wrestling, and it's gonna be on your shorts. It's gonna say have Jack's logo on there.
Dropping an
Look,
elbow.
And you're gonna come out with a sprayer and spray the crowd with
Yeah.
nutrients and make them smile. That's instead of spraying water on them in the air, you're gonna spray.
Salty goodness. I actually got a bunch of nutrients in my mouth the other day, and I think it was the first time I had a big gulp, and it was it was like a reservoir, and I was trying to siphon it because the pump wasn't working, and so I was like, and it got all in my mouth. It was so salty and disgusting.
that's actually how growers back in the day would test the strength of their nutrient solutions, is they would take a sip of it and determine if it was salty enough or not.
Mm.
Mm,
I don't recommend it,
Wow.
but
Oh,
yeah,
interesting,
way
though.
back before people were meters, that's how they would judge.
yeah. They,
Oh, that's
so
good.
can we talk so the calcium foliar, I
Mhm.
was working with a garden, and we were looking for calcium, options, and we came across the foliar, and they ended up going a different way, but when I researched it and talked with you guys, it seemed really interesting to me. It's like almost an immediate calcium deficiency. Is that am I remem it's like a CalMag supplement on steroids almost, like, it's immediately there?
Yeah, so if you're experiencing a calcium deficiency, like a true calcium deficiency, the fastest way to correct it is going to be through a calcium foliar application, because that's going to put the calcium exactly where the plant needs it. Plants can actually take up nutrients through their leaf tissues. It's not as efficient as through the roots, but because in the leaves is where you're going to see that calcium deficiency, plants really struggle to move calcium through their tissues. It's an immobile element, so it moves with the water. And if your plant isn't in an environment where it's able to pull water all the way through the tissues, it's not able to transpire really well. It's not going to be pulling that calcium all the way through the leaf tissue to where it needs to be, which is why a calcium foliar application, to put it exactly where the deficiency is happening, is going to be the most efficient way to treat that deficiency. Um,
Yeah,
if you do that in conjunction with increasing calcium in your regular nutrient solution feed, that's going to be the best way to treat calcium deficiencies.
yeah. No, it's beautiful, especially for like, when you're in a soil, it's something you can, like, water 5 times a day if you need to. Adding calcium sometimes it gets
Well,
super hard. But if you're in soil where you're like, "I
mhm,
water this once every 5 days," like, overcoming some of those
yeah,
deficiencies can be hard. Um, so
yeah.
I thought that funny. What are we mi or did we not bring a product that Jax makes for cannabis up? Is there anything we're missing?
I mean, aside from the boosters, I mean, we already went over 7, 15, 30 finish, but we do have 10, 30, 20 bloom that we recommend during the first couple weeks of bud set. Just that higher phosphorus is really going to help with that bud site development. But other than that, those are really all of our formulas that are targeted specifically towards cannabis.
Yeah. That's something I need to try. I've never tried the bloom, but I should.
Well, I highly recommend.
Yeah.
Earl, y
I don't know why I wouldn't.
Earl, come on,
I can't
man.
remember. I don't know that is Bloom newer?
No, it's really not that much newer than the A and the B on the 3-2-1. It's A and B, bloom, and finish all came out at relatively similar times.
Eh,
Sweet. So with your background in horticulture and
Mhm.
and especially in recirculating hydroponic systems, ooh, that was a mouthful
eh.
right there. In your opinion, what are some of the biggest differences one will see in Jacks compared to other nutrients?
So, one of the biggest differences is just in the quality of our raw materials. We really highly qualify all the raw materials that we use to ensure complete solubility. So you're never going to have any issues with, just general nutrient fallout, clogging of irrigation lines, anything like that. And then, I mean, too, like I mentioned earlier, with Jax, you're just going to get a level of support that you're not going to get from other companies. We have our on site lab. Our technical service team, which includes myself, is going to help you in diagnosing any problems that you have. We can test your nutrient solutions. We can test your tissue to help diagnose issues. You're just gonna get a lot more from us than a bag of fertilizer.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I like it.
that's awesome, and it's cheap. You're not paying for 95% water.
Exactly.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like it.
Water soluble fertilizers are significantly more efficient than water based fertilizers.
It is hardy in those too, because sorry, Weed Man. I've been adding that Epsom salt last and hot as hell and had no fallout or problems with it at all. So I've been even doing it wrong, and, she's been just trucking along real nice.
I love it.
Good.
I wanted to ask you a question, Earl. Is that a blunt you're
Yeah,
smoking?
so I put the chemistry phase in.
I love it. Is it one of those backwood wraps you've been smoking on lately, the flavored
No,
ones, or is it just a straight up old school White Owl blunt that Mr. Weedman loves?
I'm
Great.
a very, I stick to my flavor, I got 2 blunt flavors, but the tobacco store didn't have the honey Dutches, so I had to go with the berries. It's
Uh,
alright though, it's
gotcha,
alright.
gotcha. So, how do you like Jack's working with organics? But we call that now when we make salts with organics, we call it salt organics, right, Earl?
Organic is what I always, but a lot of other people use that term. A lot of people also claim that you can't mix salts and organics, and that hasn't been my experience. My experience has been, and there's been a lot of research that they can mix. Maybe if you have like a super big salt buildup or something, it'll kill organics or teas or whatever. But just like the normal, like the buildups we should be working with, we shouldn't be running into a problem with organics. But I thought maybe Lauren might know a little bit more about some of that, or Jax might have had some research or something on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We definitely have looked into it, and at our recommended feeding rates, you absolutely can pair Jax with, any organic products or like microbes, anything like that that you want to use. At our recommended feeding rates, it's not going to be a high enough salt level that's going to damage anything like that. In fact, a lot of those microbes and fungi, things that you're going to be using, they feed off the same nutrients that your plants are going to be feeding off of. So, if anything, you're helping to feed the soil and all of those beneficial organics that you're using. My only caveat really is just keep in mind that whenever you are mixing systems like that, that's going to significantly change, your pH and your EC. So you want to keep an eye on that and, remember that whenever you're checking the runoff specifically. If you're adding organics, that's going to make the EC look significantly higher than if you were just using the salts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm,
I typically
great to
mix
know.
mine separate, but like feed to the same plant. I just have to kind of like turn off some lines and stuff. Um, but it was such a huge with adding organics, just everything was so beautiful, worked so beautifully together. With all of it. And so and that was before, like, I don't know, a while ago, like 10 years ago, that's what everybody, oh, you're running salts with organics, you can't do that. And then like it's like, more research came out and everything. But I have a story I think that it was one of the words in your thesis paper. So I think you have insight on. I worked for a garden for a while and they did like a main mix of nutrients. But they didn't keep them constantly circulating. They just circulated them before they put them into their like other reservoirs. How
Mhm.
vital is it to constantly have some kind of agitation? Or is there like any time frame? Like I don't have like my power goes out for 12 hours. Do I need to dump my res? How important is that circulation in the reservoir?
So there is a difference between what we consider to be recirculating hydroponic systems and just general solution agitation. with Jacks, that agitation is not gonna be required because everything is completely water soluble and it's gonna go into solution like that. You're not gonna have any issues with it falling back out over time, so you don't
Huh?
need to continually agitate your solution. I will say that depending on the type of system that you're growing in, if it's a true hydroponic system, specifically if you're doing like a deep water culture or something like that, that continual agitation can help with your dissolved oxygen levels, which are important. But, if you're doing NFT systems or drip irrigation with substrates, things like that, then you don't really need to worry about the dissolved oxygen because the roots are going to have access to airspace. So they'll have access
Hmm.
to oxygen that way.
Okay.
Um, in terms of like my thesis and my research, those recirculating hydroponic systems are in reference to closed hydroponic systems like a deep water culture where the water continually goes back to one reservoir and recirculates and gets topped off over time rather than being like a drip irrigation system where once the solution has been used once it flushes out.
Okay. That's yeah,
Nice.
that's interesting. That's cool. So if I have a 5-gallon bucket for houseplants and it's sitting there for a week and it's all jacks, then it's as long as my pH.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah. Cool. That's kind
Totally
of
fine.
worried me because like my plants are all looking good, but it's always like just house plants. I'm not gonna pour this out and go mix new, so I just run with it.
Yeah. Nope, I wouldn't worry about that.
I love when Big Earl gets excited.
Yeah. When it comes to like a recirculating system like you were just describing or recirculating nutrients in general, what is one of the biggest misconceptions, you hear? Or maybe I even already talked about it. I don't know.
No, I think the biggest misconception is that you can really accurately gauge your nutrients over long periods of time based solely on the EC of the solution. So, one of the biggest factors that kind of went into my research is that you cannot guess at what that nutrient breakdown is going to be just based on the overall EC. And the longer amount of time goes by, the less likely it is that you're going to be able to make an accurate guess on what those nutrients are because nutrients are taken up from solution unevenly. So, in a closed system, where you are continuously recirculating back to the same reservoir, those nutrients are going to become imbalanced depending on what type of plants you're growing and how big they are, how many plants are in one system. That can happen very quickly, especially depending on the size of the system. Smaller systems are going to become imbalanced a lot more quickly than larger systems.
Mhm.
So, just really being mindful of yes, checking your EC is really important. And that's like a measurement that you want on a regular basis, but just checking your EC isn't really necessarily gonna tell you how much nitrogen or magnesium or micronutrients are in that solution. For, an accurate
Huh.
measurement of that, you're gonna have to collect solution samples and send them to a lab to get an actual full nutrient breakdown.
Yeah. I ran into that problem literally the first like professional garden or whatever you want to call it that I worked in, and they ran recirculating like to the same reservoir. And they're having
Mhm.
problems like changing strains, they're having problems, all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
And it was strictly just running in that EC, and they found that like they're having just like these because like if you're like dripping from like I drain to waste. So if I'm draining to waste and I'm 5% short or like under on nitrogen, then every feed is 5% short. But when you're recirculating like that, the first one's 5% short, and then the next one's 10% short, and then the next one's 20% or whatever, I don't know the numbers, but like it's like it can be real difficult, or at least it was for us.
Exactly.
Um, which is probably why like there are a lot of nutrient companies who I don't think dial things in quite as much as Jax, and they push such high ECs on their nutrients compared to what Jax does. And so you're watering like literally, or at least in my case, I found I was watering like 2/3 or maybe a little bit more than that of what a lot of other lines were recommending, like an EC be or parts per million be run. But that, yeah, that
Yeah,
is
It's kinda interesting you bring that up because, I would also mention that EC is not necessarily a measurement of the nutrients being supplied. So when other companies recommend higher ECs, it could be to match the nitrogen rates that they recommend and due to lower quality nutrients or lower quality raw materials. So if you have lower quality raw materials, you're probably going to have a higher EC required to hit the same nitrogen rates than if you have really
Mm.
high quality materials and you're hitting that same nitrogen level because the overall so salts is a measure of the total ionic charge of a solution, so it's a measure of all of the macro and micronutrients being supplied, but it could also be just general kind of contaminants that are in that solution. So if you have really low quality raw materials, you're going to have a much higher EC to get to the same nitrogen feeding rate that you would with really high quality materials. So
Mm.
that's another thing that you kind of want to keep an eye out
Huh.
for. If some companies are recommending that you're feeding at an EC of 3, 3.5, 4. It could just because they have really low quality raw materials and they're still trying to hit those same 100, 150, 200 parts per million nitrogen targets.
Okay. Is a lower quality, like, less I does that, like, less ionic? Like, more of it's just, like, not absorbable? Or
Yeah, so they could be supplying the same level of macro and micronutrients, but they also come along with, additional contaminants like sodium and chloride.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are going to contribute to the ionic charge even though they aren't necessarily, the plant essential elements that you're trying to supply.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Nice.
That
Nice.
makes sense.
Using Jax beyond cannabis. We've been talking about using it for weed the whole time, but what other plant specific nutrients do you have?
Yeah, so we actually have some other very exciting formulas on the Jax Nutrients line. We have 2 more Part A's. We have our 6626 low phosphorus Part A, and that's what I generally recommend to hydroponic growers that are producing leafy greens and herbs. So the lower phosphorus is really good for those plants that you don't necessarily want to fruit or flower. And phosphorus is really important for internode length. So the lower phosphorus you can supply, the more compact and like shorter and smaller you're going to be able to keep your plants, which for growers producing lettuce, basil, things like that, minimizing space is going to be really important because, they're usually getting paid by weight, which obviously cannabis growers usually are too. But the bigger the plant you have, the more flowering sites you have, whereas with lettuce and basil, that's not generally important. And then we also have an 8-10-26 strawberry Part A that was designed specifically for people producing controlled environment agriculture strawberries. And that formula, we actually worked with Ohio State University and their strawberry program to, develop it specifically to strawberries' nutrient needs as well. So, I
Wow,
mean, we have regardless of what you're growing, we have a formula that's gonna match that.
Yeah, it's
there you
cool.
go.
So, if I wanna grow is that from, like, mint too? I have a wicked mint patch. And if I want it to be bushier, add potassium? Is that what you
You
had
would
said? Or
want
to take
lower
away
phosphorus.
lower phosphorus, okay.
Yeah.
Lower phosphorus, okay.
Look at Big Earl, man. You've learned a lot this show, buddy.
Dude, the mint patch is like, it's almost a weed at this point. It smells really good,
Oh, yeah,
but
mint is, considered invasive in a lot of places
oh my
'cause it'll
goodness, this
it'll
thing.
go nuts, and you will never be able to get rid of it.
It's ruthless. I built a, I put, like, a barrier around it, hoping that, like, hopefully it can just, like, stay in my beds, but, it smells real good, and some of it's orange, so it's like a minty orange when I'm mowing over in that area a little bit. Like, if
Hmm.
I'll just weed whack it down, it gets wild. Um, so what, is there anything coming from, Jared Peters? Anything, that we haven't taught any, like, new plants you guys are coming out with an A for or anything?
So right now, we don't have anything new coming out on the nutrients line. We did recently come out with a product on our Jack's Classic, the retail line that I mentioned earlier. It's a root boost. So it's actually a dry powder that you mix with your soilless media or like in your garden beds, things like that. And it contains beneficial microbes that are going to really help with root development, overall plant hardiness, drought tolerance, salt tolerance, all sorts of great stuff. So that's the
Good.
newest thing that we really have available. But all I can really say on the nutrient side is just stay tuned because we're always coming up with new stuff.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah. Can I ask you about your guys' Epsom salt for like so your Epsom salt, I feel like absorbs easier into water than the other bags I got, but they all say like 100% or 99.9% or something like that. They're all like pure Epsom salt. Is there something that you guys do with yours that might allow that? Because I noticed there's also not a couple little like black specks in it that sometimes I get in other Epsom salts.
We don't do anything specific to our Epsom salts, but like I said, whenever we're qualifying our raw materials, we only accept the raw materials that meet our really high standards.
Love
So
it.
for it to be accepted as our Epsom salts, it has to meet, rigorous checkpoints and things like that for us to accept it and be willing to put our name on it and market it.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
ours is always only going to be the most water soluble. It's not going to have any weird black specks or anything weird floating in it, things like that.
Yeah. No, there's definitely that in some of the other Epsom salt. They never
Yeah.
bothered me a ton, and it was, it was all but, like, then when I got your guys's, I was like, "Hmm, that's not just like what this is."
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Lauren, where can we find you at? Can you tell us the website and maybe any social media handles where people can find you at and find Jax at?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jax, you can find us at jaxnutrients.com. We have links to all of our social media pages on there, on pretty much all social media. I think it's at Jax Nutrients, at Jax Fertilizers. And then me personally, I'm, this is going to be hard to say, at horticulturalist ist on Instagram. It's a little inside joke with one of my friends. So it's
There you
not
go.
funny to anybody else, but you know.
But you, so it made you laugh. That's good.
And I believe I'm also at Lauren_Blue Crew for my person or my work Instagram as well. But not a whole
You
lot
go.
going on there. I think I posted once like 3 years ago. It's really exciting. I know.
Well, I got banned from social media, so I mean, they don't allow the Weedmen on there. So I haven't had Instagram, Facebook. I have a TikTok account, but I do it to watch like wrestling videos and stuff. Big Earl the finisher over there, but that's really about it. I have a Twitter or an X, whatever the hell it's called now. I don't even go on it, So it's just they banned me. I can't, and I swore to myself. It's been over a year now since I've been on social media. I miss it because I miss the crew and all my friends and people in the industry. But what I don't miss is all the bullshit they give weed companies and weed people. And I'm like, you know what? I will not give you my hours upon hours of content to get just banned for putting educational, science, fun, loving stuff, nothing that, we had this talk all the time earlier,
Yeah.
just it's so I'm glad we can find you. It's great. And I'm happy to get some more people your way. I think this is a great show, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us, and taking the time out to our fellow growers and burners, stoners, and potters out there. So we appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Thanks, Lauren.
All right,
Hey,
thanks.
Big Earl,
Yeah,
Big Earl.
yeah.
This is your final thought of the show. Tell us about it
Oh,
since
yeah,
we don't do the CalMag joke anymore. So this is Big
yeah.
Earl's final moment.
No, we did, what do we change it to? I can't remember what we changed it to. No, I appreciate you coming on. I really, really enjoyed Jax. You guys have been awesome to like chat with. You brought up your customer service for a second, but it really is like I think I've talked to like 4 people from Jax. Every time like it's just you guys are always responding and always Always really, really nice and good to work with. I do have Can I do one last question instead of one last note of the day? With, like, different bugs and stuff, every year there's something that's, like, different, like, this is bad this year, that is bad this year. Do you guys see with nutrients, like, the atmosphere changing possibly what plants need more of? Like, a year where, like, nitrogen deficiency is really bad because more nitrogen's absorbed, or a year where, like, do you see that, like, a year-to-year basis or any kind of, like, patterns like that with nutrients? Like, outdoors?
I don't really work with enough outdoor growers to really be able to say. So the
Okay.
majority of people that I speak to on a day-to-day basis are gonna be growing, in soilless media,
Yeah.
indoors, in controlled environments. So, I honestly I can't really say,
Okay.
if that's the case or not.
Okay.
Hmm.
Bad question. It popped up. I was like, "Man, I wonder," I don't know.
There are no bad questions.
That was definitely a stoner thought by
Stoner
Earl right
thought. It was a stoner thought for sure.
there.
I was like, but this is a good time to learn to know that that's that's a thing. Yeah. Alright.
Everybody,
Thank you.
thank you, Lauren. We appreciate you. Everybody out in the world, thank you so much, man. We appreciate y'all. We love you. Peace.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a ninth decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.